Lighting right.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Blockchain Versus. I am Christina Bruhan, and I am joined by a very special guest, CoinGenius CTO Russ Wilcox. And we are actually interviewing for the first time one of my companies that I'm advising, LocalBuzz, and Adrian Gillette, CEO and CTO, has agreed to come on, tell us a bit about what LocalBuzz is doing, and then let us pepper him with questions about his data strategy and really what that means to enterprise clients across the board. So with that, welcome, Russ. Adrian, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about LocalBuzz?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me be part of this podcast. So what we're doing with Local Buzz is essentially what we're trying to raise awareness within the local communities from the standpoint of all the wonderful things that are happening in our local communities. So it's where things that our small businesses are doing, or other things that are happening within the community itself that's been done by other type of organizations. And it's a way for people to really take an interest and regain their connections back to their local communities. So that's Local Buzz in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Would you like to introduce Tony and maybe tell us what your roles are in the organization?
Yes. So Tony is my co-founder, and Tony is a person that with community development. He's a small business owner, but he's also a social media guru as well. So I'll give him a little bit of some time to kind of give a little more color as to what he's doing, what his background is.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I wasn't born in Phoenix, but I've been here 16 years, and since I've been here, I've moved here not knowing anyone, and I started, connecting with people, networking, and long story short, after about a decade being here, I decided to take the entrepreneur route. I started my own small business, first Asian American dessert shop in Central Phoenix called Snow, and then from that day on, I started connecting with a lot more entrepreneurs, and opened up my second store later, and then it started to snowball, had to do a snowball effect, and I started connecting with a lot, and I realized that Phoenix has such a diverse group of communities, but it's all spread out in all pocket, since it's a big city, but it's more spread out. And doing events and festivals all the time, like I realized that bringing people together was Arizona's kind of like big thing, like they were trying to keep on doing. So I figured I'd try to do something myself, and I brought the Asian night market into play, and it was multicultural, actually. It was Asian inspired, but it brought different cultures together. And I realized that, I think my thing is to connect people, and since then, I've been signed on with LocalBuzz for 2 years, and me and Adrian has just been on nonstop, just connecting people, from communities to communities, and merging together to build a stronger city. My goal is to build a stronger bridge with everyone to make, a stronger Phoenix, right? So that's the goal, and it's been very passionate about it, and so here we are, and LocalBuzz has been great of just like, reevaluating of what the people kind of want and need at the outlets. And I feel like LocalBuzz is definitely that outlet that we're highlighting to highlight parts of Phoenix communities that people don't usually see or experience. And we're giving that voice as well too. So the goal is to pay it forward to give that voice to people. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. I really love one of the aspects of the company that LocalBuzz is almost like an extension of a technology arm for small businesses that can't really compete at that level to be able to connect folks. And a lot of it just comes down to, we want our information at the speed of now. You don't know what day it is that you're going to be available, but when it's Thursday night and you're like, what's going on? And can we walk? It's a nice night. There's no kind of pool of information to be able to find that easily. And that comes down to just organizing your data really effectively. So I know know that you guys, we talk about it, and I got involved because I love big data projects, and I just saw so much potential here with geolocation data and geofencing, and being able to have a user experience as someone is kind of walking through a neighborhood, or being able to forecast themselves into the future to understand what their experience is going to look like before they actually get down there and see some kind of feedback. So you're getting data from the community, you're getting data from your users, you're getting data of the personas, you're getting data all over the place. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to Russ. I'm sure he has a few questions around how you guys are leveraging your data and why you decided to go with blockchain. Russ, I will turn it over to you, but actually, I would really like to hear that answer, Adrian. Can you tell the folks why it was so important that you went with blockchain, even though it doesn't really make a difference on the front end? The user doesn't need to know it, but it's such a powerful tool. I think we should highlight that.
Yeah, so we see blockchain as something that not only will be able to enhance our current user experience, because like you said, it's something that it's behind the scenes, but it will help us fulfill our long-term vision to essentially create this ecosystem that will support local communities, as well as connecting other communities to each other as well. And we see blockchain as this piece of technology that we can leverage to be able to piece together in a way that will totally make sense to not only us as the platform developers, but like you said, be able to equalize the playing field for local businesses as well as other organizations that traditionally have been struggling to figure out a way to get in front of a local consumer audience in a very effective way. But we see blockchain as a platform that not just for data aggregation, but be able to provide other type of features and functionality onto our platform that eventually will power all local communities around the world.
Yep, agreed. Mr. Russ, your turn, sir.
Cool. Well, this is my first exposure to LocalBuzz, and I have your beta platform up on my screen right now, and I have to say, wow, this looks really, really cool. I wish there was one in my area. I think one of the first things I'd like to ask you guys about is, you know, the typical public probably has a very minimal understanding of blockchain, other than the fact that, okay, there's this thing called Bitcoin or Ripple, and maybe there's some distributed systems. Maybe there's this thing called a ledger, and if you're lucky, maybe you can talk about, you know, the different hashing algorithms and whatnot. So I think a lot of the idea behind blockchain that the public understands either as a currency or as some of these secure records transfers, for example, looking at transferring efficiently medical records between state lines for licensing and that type of thing. Maybe you can tell us at a higher level, you know, how are you implementing blockchain, and what was your goal in utilizing blockchain in your platform, and how has that connection to small businesses been when you start saying blockchain data, you know, no longer just talking about kind of WordPress and Squarespace and SEO. Maybe you can tell us a little about that from the small business side.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're at the very beginning stages of doing our blockchain initiative. Right now, what we're transitioning from is doing our early market validation. This is what you see in our beta site. Mm-hmm. Before we actually implement a blockchain initiative, because it's a considerable effort to be able to put that together and have that be a seamless experience for the user itself. And so, yeah, at this point, for us, we're still in terms of like the blockchain component, going through that discovery process as to what type of, you know, technologies, you know, very on the technical standpoint, what we're going to be going with right now.
Cool.
So we don't have anything really substantial from a technology standpoint that we can talk about. But again, we see blockchain as being something that be a useful technology in powering local communities, which is something that we see is the mission for LocalBuzz.
Definitely. And then Tony, maybe you can talk, you being a small business owner yourself, I feel like, and maybe this is some of the earlier conversation we had prior to the start of the show, where small businesses have to radically transform their thinking. And I think the COVID-19 crisis has highlighted that in terms of the future of work, in terms of really analyzing the efficacy of certain, industrialized, workforce practices that are falling out of style. I think from a small business perspective, though, there has to be radical transformation in terms of thinking, as opposed to just saying SEO and Google AdWords and more SEO, but rather getting small businesses to think about their data. So maybe you can talk about that from a small business perspective and talk about how, you utilize data every day, whether you're not making data-driven decisions. We as humans base our opinions on certain things we observe. And how does that transition to the small business side of things and are able to let you empower your businesses?
Well, first off, I didn't know I started collecting data when I opened, but then I realized that how important it was. And then it comes down to this. Someone asked me a question the other day. They said, someone from ASU said, hey, what makes you a good salesperson, right? The answer was pretty brief to me, like understanding what your consumer wants, what your customer wants, right? And understanding your consumers and relying on that data that they come in and they order this and that, and keep that special, keep that uniqueness for those returning customers to keep them returning. So right now we're at this point, well, before the COVID-19, but at this point where bringing back your customers, your community customers is the most important. Make sure you're satisfying them is very important. And that's the data that I grabbed at. Okay, now I have 6 orders of 6 dessert specials. I kept these 6 instead of 12 because I knew these 6 are favorite ones for the customers are returning, So that kind of helped me break down throughout the years of what the data has, the data I picked up from using Square and so forth that brought it that these are what the customer wants. It's ongoing. So, yeah.
I have a quick question. So I used to be in the Fortune 500 infrastructure, franchise infrastructure, and it was food-based. They had massive millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure to be able to reach these clients and try and get them to convert one more time. Just one more time a month means billions in revenue, right? And for a small business owner, it's even more imperative to be able to connect with your customers. What other kind of KPIs or performance indicators, the metrics that you use to track customer personas, how to engage with them? There's demographic information. How do you target? How do you create a strategy with your data?
To be honest, half the conversation was broken up. I couldn't. I was trying to pick up on it. Can you kind of go repeat that again?
Yeah, sorry. Christina? Yeah, looks like we've got an unstable internet connection here.
Yeah, I got unstable. Yeah.
No problem. I was asking, what kind of metrics do you look at for your key performance indicators to move your business forward? How do you use data as a strategy to connect with your customers, whether personas, digital marketing, targeting? How do you get them to convert one more time?
I'm still new to the data stuff, so I can't give you an absolute answer for that. And I'm still learning. And that's why, Adrian, you guys are here to kind of assist me on that road. But it's, for the most part, my partner takes care of the logistics and on that side. So I can't, for me, I just come down to use the human, I would say the human persona like data, I rely on what I've interacted with customers and want, and I kind of tweak it from there. I think I'm more of a, but on the technical side, I haven't got deep into that yet. So most of the discussions I have with my partners about how can we tweak it and how can we advance it and so forth. He usually comes with me with the ideas, and then I just kind of execute it forward. So.
Makes
yeah,
sense.
so
that was actually a low ball. That was actually a softball for Russ more than anything else.
Well, I want to interject real quick. So again, where Tony really excels and it's his personality is geared towards the marketing and kind of really on the social media side of things. And this is what I've been searching for in terms of a co-founder, is to be able somebody that has that expertise. And it's something that's not a skilled that is easily learned, in my opinion. You either, because it's very artistic in one sense, but there's also metrics that comes out of that engagement. And this is what we're trying to do with LocalBuzz. And that's why when it comes to data, understanding your data and be able to understand the performance indicators, to be able to arrive at a determination as to whether what you're doing is succeeding, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're doing some type of campaign, it's an assumption that you have, and you're leveraging data to help you make that determination as to whether you made the right decision on the marketing choices that you're doing. And so for us, we see an opportunity where, as Russ, you mentioned that SEO is kind of like a piece of technology that was really, which is still big, but it's more kind of a lagging type of piece of technology nowadays. Because a lot of people, what you're looking for really is something where you have a closer pulse as to what is going to be like the leading indicators of how people are going to be engaging with you. And when you're using SEO, you don't get that full transparency. It's mostly just like real quantitative data that's kind of lagging in a sense, and you miss some of the nuance as to how what are the certain persona attributes or qualities that you might not be thinking about, or you might not be able to extract from like an SEO type of engagement. So we're thinking of like, how can we leverage and tie in data through these social media engagements for us to have a closer pulse as to what what potential customers are wanting, and be more forward thinking in that sense.
Yeah, that's really exciting to hear, because one of the things that I've done for my almost 12 years of my career has exclusively worked with small stage startups and multinational enterprises to really define AI and data science projects. And so often, you either run into two cases. You run into the case of the small business, which says, okay, I'm perfectly happy with my web developer down the street who does SEO for me. Or you have, these multinational clients that say, okay, we have boatloads of money here, do something with lots of the data that we have. And so there's a bifurcation between Main Street and big insert segment here that, for me professionally, is really a driving force to help unify these. And I think you two are on the right path, right? Tony, you mentioned that you want to start utilizing data that you see every day, right? You see your regular customers. You can personalize to those customers, saying, hello, I know, Russ really likes his General Tso's chicken when he goes to his favorite Chinese restaurant, for example, and they know me, and that personalization effect. And I think that's the next transition point that we can talk about in terms of data is, as this COVID-19 crisis, especially for folks in the restaurant field, has been a major driving force technologically forward, right? Because you're now no longer just reliant on dine-in customers. You have to engage in the outside world. You have to provide safe ways of transitioning your food, preferably have credit cards, no cash handling, a lot of the stuff that we're implementing here in Boston. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about first and help you guys shape is this idea of a data strategy, right? We're at a point now in both machine learning and small businesses where even small businesses with the limited amount of data you might not have terabytes of data, though it looks like you guys are certainly going to be in that realm sooner rather than later based on the awesome things you guys are doing. But one of the things that we're really trying to do is recognize that small businesses can utilize statistical inference to make data-driven decision. So the first step is, okay, let's talk about, you're engaging with customers. The best way to increase conversions is through personalization. So what you can do is you can start aggregating order data, or in your case of LocalBuzz, starting to understand click data to see what your users are engaging with. And then the next step is saying, okay, how can I start personalizing the content coming into play? How can I understand and recommend services? So if I'm saying, okay, I've never been to Phoenix, I want to go downtown and see what's going on, I would like to be able to have a personalization for that, right? Don't, maybe not suggest, the baby bridal shower down the street that's having this event, rather something with maybe jazz or whatnot. So I think that's the first point that businesses can start to utilize this, is there are platforms and there are methodologies out there that even with a limited amount of sales data, you can start segmenting. You can start segmenting your customers. You can start understanding what behaviors you guys are doing that either increase conversion or decrease conversion, how you can start utilizing that. And so maybe you can talk about, what are some of the types of data that you have started to see within your business, Tony, that you count on every day, maybe personally and heuristically. What are some data points maybe you'd like to say have access to or start being able to use to make these data driven decisions?
As of today, since the COVID-19, since it's only been like a week and a half, 2 weeks, since the whole pickup sales, the call in pickup, we're still putting everything together right now to kind of to find out what's our schedule going to be like next month, because right now it's still day by day. Some days like lines of people will come in and we could rack up all these numbers of who and what type of customers will come in and order this for this kind of pandemic, right? So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm starting to notice that a lot of people are coming in for buying drinks. They're just in and out for drinks. They're not buying the ice cream or nothing like that. So I think that alone for this past week and a half, by the end of the month, we're gonna figure out what to target for next month, so how we can keep increasing that, that walk-in customers or if someone wants to pick up a drink or whatever, just enhance that on to tweak it up to like, okay, we're just going to keep pushing this now, So that's
definitely. I think that's some of the resources, especially within the COVID-19, that you're starting to notice these large scale trends as humans, right? Russ will come on in every Thursday at 5 for an Allagash White or something like that. And now what you're being able to start seeing is, because you're forced to utilize digital platforms, whether it be social media, whether it be online ordering, whether it even being Square, however you're processing your payments, or phone logs, that you can start taking these types of data points and quantifying them. And even if you have a handful of data points, you're going to start seeing trends that say, okay, maybe on Thursday, I'm going to want to distribute my order time to say that it's no longer 15 minutes to wait for you to pick up your order. Maybe it's 25. And you can start having both predictive models based on the small subset data that you have to help optimize kind of workflow, but also key out specific segmentations of customers to say, okay, here are days that I might want to stock up more on this product or this produce, or if you're an ice cream shop, maybe there's a certain day of the week that you might need more milk for milkshakes or whatever. I think that's the point. That's really low-hanging fruit that you guys can start using as small businesses, whether you're in online ordering or not. Is the first the first question that any small business owner should ask nowadays is not, does my website look good? That's an important fact, and yes, but do you have the data associated with your website? Can you have online ordering that is able to tell you, okay, that Russ Wilcox at phone number this, at email at this, ordered this, and here's when he picked up, and the description of the items? Do you have access to that data? And I think that's where small businesses are starting to need to transform their thinking, because albeit all of these online ordering platforms and things like Squarespace or Wix, they give you a really nice front end, and they make and there's no way that I'm denigrating that. However, if you start trying to peel back the veil and start asking, can I start seeing my data? Can I start seeing my order history other than the few charts you give me? The answer is no. And as a small business owner, you guys need to start really pushing that of your services, of whether you're going to a local web designer or whatever, and saying, do I have access to my data? Because data is king nowadays, not SEO, not front end. Anyone can spin up a nice little portfolio, but being able to provide a good service with accompanying data is awesome. So
yes,
I think
definitely.
I have a really quick interjection here, guys. Just as a quick reminder to our audience, LocalBuzz is doing more than just one local company. They're kind of creating the infrastructure for all of these small local companies. And that's actually how they've raised their money. They've done it like one piece at a time, one 10K investment by small businesses. And it's amplifying up because these small businesses understand they need to be connected. They need to be sharing and democratizing data so that, you know, when Susan is around the corner, that she can get pinged that there's this other thing that she usually gets when she's there. She just forgot about it today. And you let the technology start doing the heavy lifting for you. And by creating that digital infrastructure, there is a way that we can help these small businesses, you know, pivot and be, innovative in their approaches, whereas it normally takes millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure to do something like that. LocalBuzz is creating like a turnkey solution so you can leverage those kind of things. So everything that Russ is saying is applicable not only to the companies that they're already working with, but really every small business that could ever potentially be on the platform.
Can I add something to Russ? I think I think it comes down to like, you know, like as of right now, everyone's trying to figure out what's working for them or what's not, right? And I think in the next, you know, by end of the month, for going on to the next month, you know, my tip for like a lot of small business is by using their data, what they racked up in the past couple of weeks, is just break it down to simplify it of what people want. You know, for me, I'm gonna just use Snow as an example again. It's gonna be a turnout where people are just gonna want straight drinks to go. That's it. You know, they're not going to come in there to sit down to have ice cream. And I think using that data of just simplifying your menu, going back into your menu online, all that, and just simplifying it and learn from what people wanted from doing all those pickups. So, yeah,
for example, I've noticed a lot of kind of higher class dine-in restaurants are starting to offer this curbside pickup in an effort to combat COVID-19, and they're utilizing their entire menu. So do you as a small business owner, do you really want to spend, you know, $75 for that single customer on the filet mignon and put on the app? No. You want to be able to have on-demand decision making, and that's where your data can start businesses can start utilizing your data. But Adrian, I would love to hear a little more about what your thoughts are in terms of LocalBuzz and being able to say, okay, you have lots of textual data I'm seeing on your website, lots of this unstructured data that we call it in the field. How can you start utilizing things like personalization or robust searching and clustering and all of these different types of things that you might want to do? What is your plan moving forward in terms of your technology architecture? What are some things that you're looking into to help bridge that gap for small businesses that might not have access to that data? But if I start posting on your platform and whatnot, you're going to be able to say, oh, look, here are the N number of customers that are coming to your events with this email, with this associated metadata. So maybe you can talk about LocalBuzz's generalized data strategy from now and what you'd like to see within the next couple quarters and how that tech infrastructure parallels that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to the point of the statement that you made earlier on around, you know, predictive modeling as well as segmentation, right? And that's the two kind of like the holy grail things that we want to achieve with our platforms and be able to help local businesses be more effective from a revenue generation standpoint, right? To be able to provide an offering that resonates with their local consumer audience, but at the same time, be able to create some distinctiveness between them and their competitors, right? And be able to highlight that. So this is what the brand vision for our platform is, that, you know, for the predictive modeling, is having these type of engagement. This is why we want to create initially like this social experience around it, because it's not just about this passive tracking of like what they're clicking through, but we'll have this quantitative, this sentiment type of data that will be really, really powerful. And this is where we see like AI can actually coming in and adding that additional value, be able to extract some of that sentiment information and be able to put it in the hands of local businesses where they can understand, easily make sense of it and say, okay, this is how we need to shift our strategy. And like you said, they can do it if we do this right, they can do this in an on-demand way. Whereas, as opposed to spending weeks, months on end trying to plan and anticipate how the market's going to react or where they want to go or where they're going to be going, we can help them be more spontaneous and like reactive in a closer sense without having to invest all that extra time, resources, and money in doing so.
Yeah, I think one of the big things.
You see why I wanted to get you guys together, right?
Definitely. I think one of the big things that I've seen engaging with Main Street and smaller businesses and the general populace is they still think that AI is this Arnold Schwarzenegger type Terminator kind of generalized intelligence that is going to eventually take over the world, or so Stephen Hawking was concerned about. Yet, maybe you can start, Adrian and Tony, breaking down what does AI and machine learning really mean for small businesses, and the fact that it's not just a whole bunch of math and statistics, but rather that you're able to start understanding your business at a digestible level. So maybe you guys can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Again, when you're looking when we're creating a social experience and you're having consumer engagement or user engagement on the platform, you have all these bits of pieces of data that's floating around. It's highly unstructured, right? And how do you be able to do that? If you try to do that manually, it'd just take you forever to try to do that. And even to try to do that using, programming algorithms, it would take us a long time to be able to continue to refine that. By leveraging
business owner just has so much extra time in their life.
Exactly.
Spreadsheets of data.
But even for ourselves, right? Like to be able to present that information, to be able to process that information in a way that's somewhat consumable for local businesses, that would just take a lot of processing power and just so much energy in terms of developing the right algorithm, continue to tweak that. So we see AI as a great a tool that we can leverage that will dynamically be able to figure that out for us. Obviously it's not one of those things where, like we just set it and forget it. Like it's one of those things where we kind of just like help nurture this and help it grow and help us be smarter in terms of how we're making these associations between all these data points. And ultimately to be able to better inform local businesses on what they're going to need to do to be able to effectively compete with each other in the marketplace. The way I view things is that the slice or the pie itself is really large in terms of the market size, right? And so there's ample room for everybody to be able to compete in that space. Nobody wants to go and eat in the same restaurant day in and day out. They want variety in our lives. And we want to be able to provide that experience for everybody because that's part of the human nature.
That's awesome. So one of the challenges that I think any business has is being able to find this blend of, business strategy versus technical architecture. So maybe you could highlight some of the technical challenges that you've experienced being a startup and how you were able to overcome them to be able to have this really, really beautiful platform that you're showing out on beta now.
Well, I appreciate the generous words. We are still actually very, very early stages in the startup right now. So we spent a great deal of early market validation to get this get the early initial data points to validate our concept, essentially. So we don't really have a platform that we've built from the ground up that has all those capabilities. But this is something that we're planning on, or sorry, we're actually doing the planning work for right now. So we're hoping in about a month's time, we're going to be able to start work on building a platform right from the ground up, and be able to have the back end capabilities to be able to do the proper data collection and be able to do the proper data, put us in a position to do the necessary data analysis to provide that informative data or informative information that local businesses will be able to leverage.
Exciting.
Just a quick side note, my very limited CTO experience, because I'm not a CTO, I was like, HubSpot has a free version of your CRM. Use that for now. So we're trying to do some duct tape solutions to be very, bootstrap and cost effective.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think, having worked with multiple startups and being able to, function both as a CTO and a technical advisor for several successful startups has really come down to this idea of your tech stack should not drive your business decisions. That's generally the bad road to go down. Your
Correct.
business decisions have to drive the tech stack, and that doesn't mean going and utilizing every single buzzword and having an MVP distributed across 3 different ecosystems. But rather sitting back and holistically and planning on, okay, there's a reason why I'm going to use AWS versus Azure versus GCP. There's a reason why I might choose an asynchronous backend project language like Node as opposed to Django. There are lots of different types of scalability questions that at times can overshadow the MVP building process, where you have to kind of walk this fine line, as Christina said, of saying, okay, what can we kind of glue and duct tape that we know we need to fix in the long run while building out some modular aspects. So I think in the last few minutes, if you guys have any questions alongside the technical planning process, I'd love to be able to give you some feedback on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, we've done some preliminary market validation, and I think we've got some great data out of it, as well as some really insightful user feedback that has informed us as to, these are the features and functionalities of the platform from a user experience, but also be able to provide us some insights as to, what are some of the infrastructure work that we need to do to not only enhance the user experience, but to put us in a position where we can leverage the information that we're getting and convert it into useful information that small businesses eventually can leverage. And
Awesome.
So we're at the very beginning stages of, we have the luxury right now of building this platform from the ground up, leveraging the technologies that make sense for us at this particular juncture for a startup. So it'd be great to be able to get your standpoint on, what do you think that infrastructure should entail?
Yeah, I think it comes back to, first off, is data strategy. And the questions that are going to start arising are how either structured or unstructured your data is to start off, and how do you want to start utilizing this? Because just looking overall at your MVP, you're going to have 2 sources of raw data. It looks like you're going to have this relatively unstructured data coming in from your restaurants or people sponsoring local events that has lots of text that might have some metadata associated with it.
Yep.
But you still have to tease out things like categories or keywords or all of that stuff, and that's one aspect. Then you have the other aspect of the actual, the authentication and the user and all of these different things. And you want to start thinking about, the first question is, thinking about what is your data storehouse going to look like? Are you going to want to use a data lake solution, meaning a lake is what exactly sounds like? You take pieces of data, you throw it in there, and then you add some infrastructure on top, and eventually push it to a database structure for your app to use. Typically, that's done for clients that are having lots of either historical data, IoT type things that might not come into this nice clean API. The second is if you are a mobile app company, or a mobile web-based company, I'd recommend a more of a data warehouse solution where you're able to have real-time API calls coming out, pinging a database, really thinking about, okay, the scalability, right? Are you going to want to have something that's SQL-based, or are you going to have something that is NoSQL based, that's really geared to high latency and redundancy and high reads, high writes? All of these questions you want to start asking yourself, both in terms of the MVP process and, say, Series A, where you're thinking, okay, what can I do about this from an MVP standpoint that will be scalable for the sense, but then I can, say, modularize this and eventually move into more of an enterprise data solution. That's kind of the first step. The second step is, okay, what type of company are you going to be geared towards? Are you heavily focused on mobile? Are you heavily focused on web? Or are you looking for both, right? And picking a platform that will support that, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at saying, okay, you want to be equally distributed across all three, then maybe an environment, something like React Native would be supportive of, where you can have your platform distributed across mobile devices and web devices with fairly smooth code without having to update. I say that fairly because there's some caveats you have to be concerned with.
Absolutely.
But before you even start thinking about that, you want to think about, okay, what framework are you going to use on the back end, right? What are you going to start doing? There's plenty of options out there. There's Django, there's Flask, there's Ruby on Rails, there's Node.js, there's Go is having lots of different things. So you want to start thinking about, okay, what are you doing with your back end? If you're going to be doing lots of different types of machine learning and whatnot. I'm biased. I love Python. I'd suggest saying, okay, yes, if you're going to be doing that, do it in Django, and that way you can start piping into all of these nice little other APIs for machine learning. And then the last step is, okay, your front end, right? The front end should be something that looks good, that you invest in a good graphic design and have the corresponding HTML and CSS. But the immediate question is, do you immediately need a front-end framework like React or Vue? Or can you suffice with a bootstrap framework that, again, is going to be dependent on your domain, right? If you are utilizing, a mobile app or something that requires lots of heavy user interaction, then I would highly recommend implementing a framework such as React, where you have all these different reusable components and whatnot. However, if you're a single-based web platform that is looking at, say, analytics or dashboarding solutions, then that's a technology you might just want to say, okay, well, I'm just going to use Bootstrap on top of this because there's not a ton of robust UI features. I think the general advice I'd have to give you guys is really make sure that you have your business goals well defined prior to discussing any types of robust technical structures. And you want to consistently ask your tech team or your tech advisor who's going to be doing this thing, how does this affect my business goals? Yeah. How does this allow me to do it? Not get swept up into this buzzword of, okay, everyone's using React Django, and therefore I should use it too. Being a Django backend developer, that's yes, I agree. Everyone should use Django for everything. But in all seriousness, you want to really be able to answer those questions of saying, okay, and do the research, seeing what platforms similar to yours that are successful, what technologies are they built in, right? Yeah. Why? I was astounded to hear the other day that Netflix was built in Flask. I'm like, wow, that's something that's really interesting. Or Instagram is built on Django. So you might want to say, okay, take a look at some of these apps that are out there nowadays and being able to gain inferences across. And I think that's the biggest type of advice that I can give you is make sure you have your business and your data strategy well defined before starting to piece together your back end, because it's really hard on the other side for, say, someone like me, and this is where where the checks start getting really big is where I come in and say that there's a client that has 3 or 4 different backends distributed across a different system, you know, how to figure out how to pipe all that stuff together or stitch data sources together under a typed up line, as opposed to saying, okay, if you have the breathing room now, let's think about your data strategy and how your tech stack can supplement, not replace your business strategy.
Gotcha. Okay. Very, very helpful advice. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to make a quick announcement. If anyone's eyes like started to glaze over, you guys can hang out with me and Russ and love this stuff. Like we will talk about this all the time.
You know, I'll be honest with you, like, I'm, you know, growing up, you know, I'm born in '81, right? So I'm pretty sure I'm older than all you guys. So, but you know, I'm happy. You know, what they call us, our generation is a Zennial, right? Have Gen X, have millennial. You know, it's tangible, right? Zennial, tangible yet digital. I always grew up like, you know, loving the whole understanding technology. Always, you know, that was always in my back of my head. And now the fact that I'm in startup tech, it's kind of like brought that old me out, and I feel like learning all this data stuff. It's like a new refreshment in life that I'm stoked about. You know what I mean? Because, you know, some people are not passionate about this stuff. You know, they just want to. It's totally different world, right? So, but luckily, like being with Adrian, like, you know, luckily I understand this stuff. I'm starting to understand more of it.
Oh no, we're losing him.
No, yeah.
Tony, you're underwater, man.
What it's heard from Russ right now, it's awesome. You know what? I think it's great. It just made me apply what I'm gonna do next month. Try to keep the beat going on, you know, going for my small business too. So.
Yeah, I mean, for local businesses, it can't be business as usual, right? Local businesses have to innovate in order to be effective in the marketplace. And so we want to put them in the position to do so. And that's our mission. Again, it's to power local businesses because they are the backbone of local communities. And if they do well, local communities thrive, and everybody, you know, has a more enriching life from that.
Agreed. Well said, sir. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and wrap, but we will be giving the contact information for LocalBuzz so you can get a hold of Adrian and Tony to keep tabs on the project. And there is going to be lots of updates to come. They're doing some really, really cool stuff. Russ, thank you so much for being here and peppering questions.
My pleasure.
Adrian and Tony, I'm just so proud of you guys. Like I'm just thrilled to be a part of what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much, and we're happy, you know, to have you be part of this as well. Really.
Yeah, it's, you know, like, you know, yes, we're definitely I'm happy to have you on board as well, Christine. It's awesome because your energy inspires my energy as well. So at this time, you know, right now, we have to inspire each other to keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're all in this together, and the tide rises all boats, right? So if you have more questions about data science, right? If you have more questions about data science, please hit up myself or Russ. There are consulting services available through CoinGenius. Until next time, this is Blockchain Versus. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.